forth, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants. I just want
Oh my God. We just saw this and it's so funny. Oh my God.
Dude, I was crying laughing. But here we go. Back again. We got Tyler Watkins in the house, our favorite Buford. My guy.
That'll be like a short-lived. You'll know the era in which you showed up if you know that nickname.
Until your next nickname, right? Till they give you a new one.
Yeah,
Yep.
until I get a new one. How are you all?
It was so good to see you at Crash, bro. That was so fun.
I was super stoked to see you guys. I was not expecting it, which made it like double cool because I didn't know you guys were coming, and then you were there.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I had no idea.
Nobody told you?
Yeah, and so I was like walking around. I was like, oh, they're here, and they're way taller than I expected.
That was absolutely like the number one thing was everybody was surprised. Not so much that Garrett's tall, but that I'm as tall as I am. Like everybody kind of pictured her being as tall as she is. I think you guys all thought that I was very short and very, very skinny. Because Ortega was like, I thought you were like this big. I'm like, no, I work out a lot. Give me a little credit.
Garrett did throw me off to a degree. I think CrossFit just makes you assume, oh yeah, everybody's going to be short. And so you just go into this preloaded idea. But Colleen, I was thrown off because where you're redheaded, I just make assumptions. I'm like, you're tiny.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
Broke all those stereotypes because I am very, very tall.
That's how the Reds are, man. They're either tiny or they're freaking huge.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, because your brother's humongous.
My middle brother is 6'4".
Yeah.
And my eldest brother, which is very funny, he looks very much like you. He has the facial hair. He has no hair. He has no hair. He used to be a radio DJ back in the day when you got to control everything, and was kind of a local celebrity up in the Syracuse area. And then he stepped away, had something happen to his job, so he's no longer in radio. But it was so funny, like the first time that we saw you on screen, and then it just solidified in person. I was like, holy shit. He looks just like my older brother. I don't know if I can pull up. I'll try to find a picture of him, but he looks just like you. Are you
Scottish?
Welsh.
Welsh. So same.
Yep.
But usually the Scottish Reds are the ones that are tall. So like Irish redheads, they're always short. But so when they're usually Scottish if they're tall and redheaded.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, everybody?
Hi, guys. Wow. Hello.
Yeah, y'all are always angry. Fair. Good afternoon, HGR.
Wait. Who's always angry? Redheads are always angry?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, that's the stereotype, bro.
I'm not always angry. But when I do get angry,
angry.
See, I'm real chill till I'm real not chill.
Yes. Do you have things don't bother you and then the buildup gets really bad and then you snap, or are you there's no warning snap?
There's no warning. I just have, I used to have really, really bad anger issues when I was a kid until I learned sort of set ways to deal with it. But it's like now I just have certain lines that if they get crossed, I lose all control.
Do you lose all control online or just in your house?
Oh, it's way worse. The fact that I've had outbursts online are very, very not me.
You?
Usually if you can ask Spin or John, if I lose it, I'm fucking off the rails. So
well, Spin is so even keeled. And then you and John just lose it on each other. And I mean, it's hysterical. I love every second of it. But
Spin, learning how even keel Spin was truly evident when Lazar passed. Nothing changed. It was, and then with the grid stuff on the back end, flatline the whole time. It was his steady-handedness is incredible.
It's, what surprised me now that you bring it up was the way that people responded to to Lazar dying. They responded in a way that I just have never seen before. Like, sure, you go through the anger, you go through the blame, you go through all those steps, but then those steps just never started to subside. It just got worse and worse and worse, and people just got more angry and more pissed off and more. And I was just like, oh,
what's happening?
What is going on right now?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be angry, but it was almost like hateful in some cases.
It's only a few, I would say. Like, it seems loud because there's a contingent that are still very, very upset. And I totally get being upset, but I think most people had dealt with it by the time, like a month after. It felt like everybody, like at the games, like I had a hard freak out moment where I was pretty like, I wouldn't say distraught, but like I had an emotional moment. And then by Sunday, I was pretty much like coming back out of it. But I will say, when I got back home, I started driving back from the Indianapolis airport, and just freaking, I guess everything that I had been putting off, like, hit me all at once. I remember, like, I sent Chase like a crying voice message.
Yeah, you have feelings. There's feelings.
Telling him how much I appreciated him and like the job he did this weekend. Like, it was weird because I was super appreciative of certain people. And that was like a weird takeaway from Lazar dying, was like, I just became super appreciative. So that was,
and you think that's what it would be. That was another part of it that I was so surprised, was usually you want the people around you. Like, you want the people that it was the community that got you there, the community that got you to the games, the community that supported you at the games, and you want to be around that, and you want to hold on to that. And the reaction to want to tear it down is kind of crazy. But like you said, from that 1%, it's like, why do you want they're not telling you to go away. They want you to, but you're telling them to go away. Why? It's the weirdest reaction ever.
I have a hard time recognizing with that side. So part of my dealing with things is like, I'm very much want to build something back or make it better, fix. That's generally like my mode of action with anything, is how can we fix this? I do have a redneck side of myself that just wants to burn stuff down.
Yeah,
but you have to push me really far to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like I guess I can kind of do the mental math on why they're there. It just, I think to a lot of people, that this is not the time to tear everything down.
Was that what motivated the article and I saw that. It was good. There's a parallel there just between what the country itself has been going through for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
And then now what this 1% is doing in CrossFit right now.
Yeah, I see things in this weird tangential sense where I always put like 12 different stories together in my head of why something makes sense. So that was why I talked about like Bud Light, and then like grunge, Appalachian culture, and then CrossFit. Like I see things that way. And I was sort of noticing that pattern, that this is existing in other spaces. But yeah, like CrossFit's sacred to me in that, like, there is hardly anything that can happen in which I'll be like, okay, it's time to burn it down. Like, this is better to be dead than survive.
Mm-hmm. It's just because it affects so many other people, and I don't even feel like they think that way. It affects all the young athletes that are coming up. It affects the people that have jobs at the CrossFit Games and you know, personality, whatever. You're affecting so many other people, and you're not even considering it. I think that's the thing for me that's the most, like, really?
Yeah, it's like, that's the part that I struggle with, is how are people not able to do the mental equation on, is the good that this causes still outweighing the bad? And it's like, and that was the thing about Josh Murillo's post that I didn't like. He used the husband that batters the wife, or the
that video.
Thing. I was like, well, Josh, like, the thing is, though, you can't just swap in and out parts of your husband that you don't like. but we can with CrossFit. There are particular individuals within that structure that I think aren't doing their job or not doing it effectively or communicating things ineffectively. And you can just swap those people out. This is a structure in which we can swap things in and out and the whole still remain good. And so I was like, I don't like that analogy. I understand where he was going with it, but like, to me, it's still fixable. Like, it's just people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they might think they're doing the right thing, but I mean, they're not delivering on some of the things they need to. And so just swap them out.
I can't tell. Okay. So this will probably be my controversial clip moment or whatever.
Get ready. Someone's going to clip it.
Please don't.
I'll clip it and post it on my Instagram.
But it is really like what we went through as a country. You have the two different sides and you can tell who's on the different side and who has a louder voice and whatever. And in this situation in CrossFit, it's like, if you look at whose side they're on, you can tell who they voted for. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to think of an example that doesn't match up with that, but I think it is a good like rule of thumb at the moment.
And the coping skills that I'm waiting for a bunch of CrossFit videos where there's just people who want to burn CrossFit down and they're just screaming into their phone. Like, this is how I feel. And there's no words, nothing comes out. It's just yelling and there's no productivity. There's no conversations being had. There's, it just feels like,
to use a Trumpism, it's not everyone who voted for Kamala is trying to tear CrossFit down, but everyone who's trying to pull CrossFit down voted for Kamala.
Yeah. There's kind of no, CK Kevin, guess who I voted for?
I think the picture tells it all.
We know.
Well, you make a really good point, and this is something that I've said just in conversations with Garrett, is that if it was me and it was her that I lost in such a way that some people feel was preventable, I have that side of me too that would want to burn everything down. I would want to destroy everything. I would be emotional for a very, very long time. And I would be led by my emotions, by my trauma, my sadness, my anger, and all of those feelings. But I feel like, or I would hope that I would have somebody, a group of friends that would be there for me to help get me to the other side. You made a point when you were at the games that you had people that you were very grateful for whatever they gave you, whether, I feel like Chase got a lot of us through this just with being able to hear his voice. You know what I mean? You were there, you had more people, your locker room, the boys, all this type of stuff. You had those people that were there for you, that you were able to navigate through that. Do you feel like that is missing with some of these people that are having such emotional responses, as that there is no soundboard, I guess, for a lack of better term, or someone that can see it differently that is there to try to help them through that?
That there's a nuance here in that if you're Lazar, so you said if Garrett died, you would feel that way. Mm-hmm. And I think like that's been one of the great things that Sevan has done, is given Luca space for that. Yeah. Like, you're kind of allowed to act however you want, but it is the responsibility of your friends to kind of keep you in check, like allow you your bashing room of just allowing to tear everything down if you want to, but they sort of are responsible for mitigating some of that. Right. I do know some people that are in and around Luca, and I know that they are being a voice of reason. The issue here is that there are those, and I don't want to believe this is real, but there are those around Luca who already had politics going into this situation. And now they had a crack form, and they're trying to expose that crack in any way that they can. Mm-hmm. And again, I get some of that. The aggravation that I've had with CrossFit in the past and still have with them to this day is massive. But it's a bit of an unfair situation. And in which they're exposing it. And it seems disingenuous to use his death to expose this. And I never met Lazar, but that dude really loved CrossFit, and he loved that it existed. I cannot imagine that this is the road that he wanted this to go down. I don't know.
Right.
But that's the feeling that I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they won't allow two things to be true. Right. It was a horrible, horrible day. It was a horrible, horrible accident. Everybody felt like absolute garbage. You know, I can't even imagine the people that were there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just can't. It was crazy that it was on television, that there's video of it, that that happened. And also it was an accident. And people, as soon as you say that, they want to yell at you immediately. And it's just like, just wait, just hold space for a second, because eventually it was an accident. Nobody wanted that to happen. No one was trying not to see Lazar. No, you know what I mean? It wasn't, but they just need someone to blame so badly. And I don't know, it's like a social mind virus that they can't get out of. That's just.
Let's pretend that CrossFit is 100% at fault, that somebody on the team was like, we need more boats, we need more everything. And that let's even put it on Dave, that he is 100% responsible for what happened, short of pulling him under the water, that Dave is 100% responsible. It is still not worth it to tear the whole machine down.
Yeah.
And that's where I find myself in this world outside of CrossFit in general, is like, you have to be able to have both conversations and acknowledge that two things might be true, and allow the other side that you're not on to like maybe win a little bit. Mm-hmm. But like, not being able to meet in the middle has just driven me crazy about life in general, in total at the moment. Like, I'm so tired of it. I can't continue to just like, I'm on team red, you're on team blue, and we hate each other. It's like, no, you overlap mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
Yes. Mostly. Yes.
For sure.
There are those like line things. We talk about that. And that's been like where I've been coming from with this whole getting out of the very, very left side, is like, there are some things that I will stand on, and you will never change my mind on some things. But most things we're pretty close to believing the same thing. And it's okay that you have those hard lines about certain things. That's the beauty of this country, that we get to have those lines and say, you cannot break this. Yes, Jonathan Ortega, okay, definitely.
Yeah, but barely a Venn diagram. It's mostly two circles that mostly overlap.
Yes.
It's like you hear a lot of the commentary. Extra sloppy, I see you. I wanna read what you wrote in a second, but you mostly see now that the left is kind of reflecting. You'll hear them say, and they have to catch themselves, right? They'll be like, "Oh, I mostly agree with Trump on immigration, but oh, did I just say that I mostly agree with Trump on immigration? I can't say that." Mm-hmm. Like, extra slop. No, I have no idea who he voted for. I don't like the system, but I don't want it to burn today. I just need help. I just need help people see the path without the system we currently have. The analogy for CrossFit, and it is kind of funny how they overlap. I noticed that with your argument or with your article, and just the way that people have been talking and commenting under your posts and stuff. It's very right there.
I think it's our way of seeing things right now. Everything's so politicized and that you can't see it in any other way. And it was the funny thing that I find about the comments is like how the shots that people throw, it's like CrossFit's so American and like, this is just American politics. It's like, no, like you're trying to see it that way. It is. I think our world's just politicized and that we just want to create teams. And it's like, that's not what we need to do here. You know, it's like, people identifying as Americans, like in trying to see, like whether you live in California or Texas or New York or wherever, like you're an American. Mm-hmm. And people are more starting to identify with, I'm from Texas, and I don't see the world that I don't see the world the way from that people from California see it. And it's like, we have to get back to a place where we identify as being a CrossFitter, and that we have to do what we can to make CrossFit the best thing versus like I'm on the CrossFit HQ side of the equation, or I'm on this side of the equation, or whatever.
When you say burn it down, and maybe I'm missing this, is it feeling like that it's the games are trying to be burnt down, or CrossFit as a whole is trying to be burnt down?
They overlap a lot for me, in that if you try to burn the games down, and this is a point of opinion that a lot of people had problems with in the comments during our last show on the spin, was that John and I were making a case that the games is super important. And it's super important in a weird way. But if you burn the games down, you're going to knock CrossFit down about 8 pegs. And I don't think that people are, it's a hard equation to see because of the turnover. And that was the case that I tried to make, is that if you look at the Open and the games being televised, our growth started then. Mm-hmm. We were still growing, but like our trajectory majorly changed. We went from this to this immediately. And it's like, for people to make the case, no, if the games go away, that CrossFit won't be hurt at all. That's insanity. Like, that's just not true. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, well, I said burn it down in the article, so I was wondering if that's what you meant, or just burn it down as in the common sense of trying to burn it down right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand like what's the feeling of everything. Is it like people are anti-games? Are people anti-CrossFit? Like, because you read the comments and I almost wonder, and I'm sure you probably see this more than anything because you know people closer in the space and whatever. It's like, some people didn't hate CrossFit until the incident happened and the games happened and the accident happened. And now all of a sudden there's so much stuff that's being said. And yeah, maybe it just didn't reach the media. Maybe it just didn't get out there. People were keeping their mouth shut. And now everybody feels like that they have a place to speak. Podcasts are huge now. It's not just HQ that was talking about it. Now everybody's talking about it. So maybe there's more players in the game to be able to speak on it more, but it kind of just felt like, yeah, we were trying to navigate post Greg being in charge and the wave of that and everything like that. But it seemed like we were kind of getting back to like where Greg was, having Dave come back. And then all of a sudden it was like, nope, everybody was wrong. The glasses were on and we were much more fucked up than we thought.
So the group has been sort of, we've been throwing shots at HQ for a while, and not that we want to burn it down, but we want to hold them accountable to produce great content, great everything. We want them to produce, number one. And so we sort of have been throwing shots at them for a while. And then the games thing happened, and people started going after Don and Dave, right? Mm-hmm. And I think even though the people who are trying to burn it down they still want the games to be around. They just don't want those people in office, so to speak. And so it starts turning into this burn HQ down.
Okay.
D-Reed, the faux pro athletes do not care about the affiliates. The way that I always looked about the games was basically it was just a big marketing tool for the affiliates. Because the most fun that I ever had at a CrossFit affiliate was the Open. Yep. I mean, it was crazy. We had a blast during the Open. We were all ready. We had our own little leaderboards. Mm-hmm. Heats would go. Then you'd watch the coaches go, because the coaches were always the best athletes in the gym, and they do, 7 muscle ups in a row and drop off. And we were all like, holy crap. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was
like
amazing.
That was it. Yeah.
They would hold on to 12 toe to bar. And we were like, oh, I just want 3, and it was great. It was a great time. It was so much fun. So that's how I've always viewed, if you got rid of the games, you don't have an Open. That was just the fun we had. There was, I don't know.
What years are you talking about?
We were, this is pre everything. I
started in 16. I didn't start until 17 after I had the baby.
Yeah.
And then we were avid CrossFitters. I was a coach for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we stepped away from CrossFit almost 2 years ago and haven't been back.
And she was there for my first open too. And that,
yeah, I was there. It was
the one with the crazy, it was like 9 thrusters.
Wasn't it 55, 55, 55?
No, not that one. It was
but
the double.
Really
I love that one. I love that one.
Babe, you did so good on that one. She got her first handstand push-up on that one.
Yeah, that was fire.
So good.
But that whole open was a bunch of firsts for me. And it wasn't even like firsts of crazy things. It was
squat snatches.
It was the first
toes
time.
To bar, like, yeah.
It was the first time I linked together double unders.
Yep.
It was just like I got so tired that all of a sudden my body was just like, okay,
you had to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
yep.
it was an amazing feeling. I'll never forget that. Those are some of the greatest times that I've ever had in CrossFit. And it was like, it just felt like it was marketing for the affiliates so that the affiliates could have a good time.
And the minute we jumped in, we're watching everything, all of the documentaries, all the behind the scenes, like She Found Sevon First, like all of these things.
The Froning documentary.
Movies,
I must have watched that 100 times.
Like
in
we
a
just
week.
watched everything. Yep.
Him running in slow motion around his barn. I mean,
over
come on
and
now.
Over and
even
over.
for a lesbian, that's fire.
Listen, our son didn't talk much, but one of his first words was froning. So like
it's on my Instagram.
We were dedicated. We drank the Kool-Aid completely.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the years is because that was peak. I mean, some of my favorite seasons were those seasons, and it was like, and there was very little for me to do as like somebody who was trying to be an up and coming competitor. Was like essentially after the open ended, it was over. You had nowhere to go if you didn't make regionals, and I didn't care. Like that wasn't a huge deal. But as the open has become less and less tied to the games, I think you've seen like this huge detriment in the community. Like we all did care. And so for people to be like, well, CrossFit's not, easily digested by people because it's so overlapped with the sport. I was like, no, that's what made it great. And those opens, probably 2013 through 17, like I don't absorb those anymore. Like my gym doesn't feel that way. The Friday Night Lights thing is sort of gone. And it was like that those years of my life have been always something that I've tried to replicate because it did feel so powerful. So many people were having so many emotions and so many cool moments for each person. Like why would you not want that to be a thing?
Yeah.
So that letter or that article that I wrote is essentially like a love letter in a way to HQ. Have been like, hey, we had this figured out. Whether you liked it or it was expensive or whatever, okay, we can answer those questions. But like, we had it figured out. Now we just have to figure out how to make it work. And that was the part where I called out, like, how were you not able to glue this back together after Greg left? All you had to do was replicate what he was doing to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And they changed it all, or it feels like they changed it all.
Yeah.
They kind of threw it up in the air and tried to catch little pieces, and then nothing fit together anymore.
Let me just say this too, because also I think like when Greg left and the black squares went up and everybody was virtue signaling every freaking thing. They tried to get as far away. I think that was part of it. That's what I took away from your article too, is they tried to get as far away from Greg and, if you want to call it, the right, as they possibly could. And they went so far, they went way too far to the left, and now they can't. They're trying to figure out how to be like, oh, we fucked up. Let me come back a little bit more center and figure this out. And I don't know if they can do it abruptly, but I'm hoping they figure it out.
What's the best way to take off a Band-Aid?
Oh, you just want to rip it off? All right, okay, I'm good with
it. And that's why like I've hinted around on other shows, like we have to have an aggressive, not an aggressive, but like a passionate speaker. We have to have a voice. Don's just not doing it. He is a CEO, but he's not the voice of CrossFit, right? In the way that Greg was. And that's why I talk a lot. Like I've talked a lot about CrossFit being a religion and essentially being a church, in that like we sort of have to have our pastor. And that feels gross in a way to some people, I think, but it is the truth of the matter. We have to have a direction. We have to have a leader. We have to have some way to go, because we're all disorganized and running off in our own directions. And that's good for the most part. But we do need somebody every 3-4 months come out and say, hey guys, this is what's going on in health. This is what we need to focus on as gyms. Here's the problems. Like, so for instance, I talk a lot about social media being an issue. My wife does research on kids, social media, and fitness. And it's like, it's a huge issue we're not talking about. We need to have somebody come out and say like, hey guys, this is what we're seeing. This is how us as CrossFit gyms help this issue. Jesus is here.
Thank you. Thank you for blessing us today.
I kind of want to ask, I know you said it on Spin, and I don't remember, I don't remember if anybody asked this question, but as John being very, very religious, does he appreciate you calling CrossFit church, or does he kind of understand the connection between the two?
You know, he's never said anything about it. It's probably just one of those things. He's like, I guess, whatever. He doesn't seem to have crazy opinions on it. But I would think if you broke it down for him and showed him, like, you know, CrossFit serves in the community aspect is in it ties you to all the people who are around you. It helps you care about other people. It ties you to certain values that you might have in the CrossFit space. It would be, you know, fitness, try not to eat absolute bullshit, like all that stuff. It gives you rules on how to operate your life. And I think if I laid it out like that to John, he would be like, yeah.
Hey, I can't help but notice that that you guys have been talking out real extra lately. I kind of love it. I kind of love seeing you guys in the news cycle. Just
you are everywhere
saying some.
You are everywhere.
Some really thought-provoking and conversational-provoking stuff. I mean, even Chase is getting a little jiggy with it lately. Like, and I kind of love it. I'm just kind of curious. Did you guys have conversations? Did you know you wanted to start just because that's Chase's podcast that you clipped, right?
Yeah,
that's his podcast. It's not, he wasn't on us for that one. Cause I remembered him telling me, hey, some of those questions you're asking me are making me sweat. I got to talk around those questions. But so I was like, okay, I'll dial it down a little bit. But now he's getting a little,
all are.
Yeah. A little frisky out here in these streets.
On the spin side of things, you know, the grid thing was its own monster.
Dude, and John can call me Big Mama anytime he wants. He can call me Big Mama. I'm here for it all day. I got it.
So John speaking out is not a new trend. That one's sort of normal, but you know, so on the spin side, I used to see us as like sort of the moderate version. You know, Sevon, we essentially covered all the same topics that Sevon would talk about as far as in the CrossFit realm, and we're a lot easier to digest. A lot of people don't know this, but like I think 40% of our viewers on Spin are female. We're the highest definitely in the CrossFit sphere.
Oh wow.
YouTube alone is like 20% female. So for us to be 60-40 is like really, really good.
Well, YouTube doesn't know if I'm a man or a woman, so I don't.
Broad appeal.
You get both when I watch your show. It's fine.
So us venturing out into a little bit more of the outrageous, I wouldn't even call it outrageous, but we'll say outrageous for simplicity, it is a bit new. I think some of that falls on me. I think it has to do with the baby coming and all that. I'm becoming more firm in how I feel about myself and the things that I want to communicate, which took a long time. I think it was like Sevon's biggest problem with me and what he wanted me to work on was that like I have a hard time being outspoken about certain things, whatever it be. I tend to see things from both sides, and it makes me apprehensive to speak on anything. It's also just part of me and my family's nature to a degree. Stay out of everybody's business. Just worry about yourself.
So you didn't talk about politics on Thanksgiving?
Oh, no. So internal to our family, we talk about politics almost exclusively.
Oh.
It's like we love debating internally. We love it. But there is also like we like sort of have a rule that if you become emotional, like you're out and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get made fun of. But then on the Chase side, I think, so when I think about him and then myself both, I think there's this point now where it's like, I don't want to say cull the herd, but we did let so many people come in, and not that CrossFit is exclusive for anybody. You can, it is for anyone. It's just not for everyone. And we run a community. If you run a church, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. In a way, this is almost inevitable what we're going through. Ask yourself why Catholic, Presbyterian, every denomination of Christianity exists. It's because at some point somebody came along and said, I still love God, but I don't agree with you in this, this, and this. So we're splitting off. Right?
Yep.
And so if CrossFit is serving some function as a church, as a religion, that's inevitable. It's going to happen. And I think what Chase and I are feeling is that, like, no, guys, like, it doesn't matter how you feel about all these different things. Like, we need to keep the church together to a degree. And I think the heat is up a little bit. Like, we're becoming more loud because it seems, I mean, I was talking with somebody else the other day, like, this might be the scariest time we've ever gone through as a community before. Like, everything's like the vehicle is shaking.
Yeah.
The wheels are about to fall off.
I just think if you don't, like, I love the fact that you guys are kind of pushing back a little bit more. I love to hear it. You know, you always hear Sevon push back. I kind of know how I know how he's going to push back now. You know what I mean? But to hear you guys start talking about it, getting to talk with Bill Grundler about it at length is really cool. And I love that you're doing it. And hey, dude, kids will do that. Once you start having kids,
change you.
I mean, I'm sure it changed how you wanted to vote, or at least had a bearing on how you voted in the election, right? It just does it to you. You can't help it. You have to talk when you have a kid because you have to advocate for your kid. They can't advocate for themselves. So
and the world looks really big when you have a kid. It looks very, at least for me, I can say, like, when you don't have a kid, it almost seems very like blinders on, where it's kind of like you're just all about you. But I felt like when I had a kid, like, the world got much bigger, much scarier. Like, it just changed everything for me.
Well, he's not born yet, so I haven't crossed the threshold of him being here and how the world might change in that, to that extent. But I've had the opposite sort of thing happen to me, where the world used to feel big and I needed to know everything in it. That, like, one of the complaints I get from my boss is that I have to know how every single piece of the mechanics work at work. My dad's an engineer. I sort of think in that way. I went to engineering school for 3 years. I sort of need to know why everything is the way it is, what function it services, and how it plays into the larger part. And sometimes you don't, like, most of the time you actually don't need to know that. And so when I'm out in the world, I want to know why everything is and functions the way it functions. We get pregnant and all of a sudden the world shrinks and I start thinking, what can I fix that's immediately around me? What do I want to fix? My time is about to go away. Like, as far as like how much time I have in the day is about to go away. So I have to pinpoint focus on the things that I actually have control of. So that's how the world sort of shrunk for me. I stopped caring about myself so much and started thinking about everything else.
Yeah. No, I get that. It is, I don't know. I can remember not wanting to share my opinion on anything.
Nothing.
And then it was just like, okay, well, I don't comment on people's posts. I don't, unless it's like a heart or a smiley face or something. I don't, I had him and now I'm just in everybody's DMs like, what do you think about this? What's this? This is fucking stupid, isn't it? No, I'm stupid. Oh, why am I stupid? Like, and it's just the conversation, but it's hard to have those conversations and it's scary it's almost like you're coming out of the closet again. Like, it's scary to come out and start talking about this stuff and admit
that there's difference of opinions and that you don't agree
half
with
of my
everything.
friends are like, you're voting for who this year? What do you mean? How could you? It was just and I was scared to do it, but it was almost kind of like, hey, sorry. I got, like you said, rip the Band-Aid off.
I was a bit empowered by the grid situation in a way. It was weird because I didn't commit any of the sins, and it helped me.
Oh yeah, let's go. Great.
So I called both Sydney and Casey, the girls who were mistreated by John, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear their side, hear their opinion, and where it went.
That's
and
awesome.
like both from them and from like the grid coaches and the grid management, like I was heavily thanked for that. And I told them at parts in those conversations, I don't agree with you on this. I didn't say it forcefully. I was just like, I think we just don't agree with that. Like we don't agree on, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, and so in that moment where I was like, they were deeply offended by what John said, and I was able to navigate that situation, present myself as a friendly, and like potentially have made friends in the future, and still remain friends with who I was friends with and stand by what I believed in. I was like, the entire world opened up because I had really hard conversations and everything turned out okay. And so it was like, oh, I sort of can like, what do they call Blade? A day walker.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
I have this function where I can,
you have a daylight ring,
invade certain places where I don't belong or have anything really in common with those people, and come out with friends in that situation. I was like, oh, I'm eminently dangerous because I can invade any situation I want now.
and that's perfect.
Were you asked to reach out to them, or did you?
No, I felt like it was the right thing to do. I understood why Casey might have been offended by what John said, and I wanted to. The battle that I was trying to fight there was that, just like she was offended by what he said, John also as much didn't mean it offensively.
Yeah.
John has he is and isn't Southern in a way, but he has a Southern manner of speaking where he says things that people take offensively, but actually are meant in a good light.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing. Like, you actually don't make fun of people that you don't like. Like, you'll just throw fucking shit at them, and you'll mean it. Like, you can tell when John's trying to offend you that he is trying to offend you. And he didn't in that way. And what I wanted to show to her was like, hey, I get why you were offended, but just to show you, he says this, and this actually is a positive. Like, he meant it in a good manner. And you can still like be like, I don't really care. I don't want him saying it at all. That's fine. I understand why you feel that way too. But like, his culture sees that as okay, just like your culture sees it as not okay. And neither can win out. It's not fair if one gets to win and the other doesn't get to win. They have to exist together.
We're coming out of this space too where everything was offensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we couldn't say anything. The shackles were on. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't say anything. We couldn't joke. And now it feels like the shackles are coming off and I can dance again, kind of thing. And you can have some fun, forgetting that there are still people out there that haven't kind of come out. They still can't listen to Eddie Murphy Raw. They still can't watch Richard Pryor. They still can't do any of that stuff because everything's still offensive to them.
Right.
But I think we'll get there.
Yeah, we're slowly walking out of it. I'm able to have conversations now that I was not able to have 2 years ago. And that's sort of where we need to be. Yeah. At least on that road.
Have you talked to anybody on the on like the PFAA side and tried to infiltrate that and see what's happening on the,
or do they send you to voicemail and leave you on red?
I gave David the opportunity to have every conversation he wanted to have. Now, I communicated it rather aggressively, but I gave David the opportunity that door was open. Brent and I have actually had a great like professional back and forth anytime we've been together. Him and I have spoken on the phone, I think once or twice, particularly about P score. And, he'll at least, he doesn't agree with me on P score, but like, he's willing to have the conversation, which is all that I really ask. Have an honest conversation. I don't really I try to detangle the PFAA. I think like there are a lot of people in that who are tied with that organization that literally just want to make sure that the ropes are cut off.
Right.
So that they don't trip on them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas others are serving a political function and trying to get Dave fired. And that's where I try to cut it and say, like, hey, this contingent of the PFAA, bad news. This other one actually is probably productive to a degree. And so, no, long story short, no, I've not talked with anyone at the PFAA about PFAA matters.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have problems with any of them besides David.
Colleen and I were talking about this the other day. Does the CIC, isn't Annie is on both? She's the PFAA and the.
I don't think she's PFAA anymore.
Did she leave that to go to CIC?
I don't think she was part.
I thought she was PFAA.
I don't think she was part of the crew.
No,
I remember her name coming up in that situation, but this is a Jack is better than PFAA.
I also like saying CAC better than
it's
PFAA.
way better.
It's way more fun.
When you say CAC, I'm like, wait, what is that again?
Sorry, I just had
CAC.
Well, because
I'm like, I got it.
I was saying CAC, but then my son started saying it too. But he doesn't say CAC. His CAC he says cock, and so we stopped doing it.
No, she is not on the athletic board.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised to see a great deal of overlap. That was one of the things that we covered on the spin. Like, yeah, for the PFAA to continue to exist, they almost need to control the CAC.
Yeah, you right, Jonathan. You right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. I remember that shit.
That was funny.
That was fun.
I think it was on the podcast that you did with Chase and Bill, and I forget which one of you said it. Do you think that it has actually been a detriment to try to make the sport more professional?
Yeah.
Because when I listen to you say, and forgive me because I'm not a big sports fan, I'm learning. I've been with Garrett for a long time. I barely understand football. I've gotten a little bit better at it. But my understanding is, from what you're asking, is more transparency into what goes on in the season. And I feel like that comes from a place of the intimacy of the community within CrossFit. We find CrossFit because we are a community. And so for us, we're kind of want to know everything. And then we become fans of the sports. We want to know everything. Do professional sports allow that same transparency? Or is it kind of like, this is the sport, this is the time that the games are, this is how it rolls, and the year is the same every year?
Yes and no. The NFL, most of the transparency on what's going on. You don't know who they're going to trade. You don't know why they trade them. But that seems internal to the team, and that's fine. But the commission stuff, the entire season structure is what you know. And I think that's where the PFAA sort of started. We want to know what movements you're going to do. We want to know that they're safe. We want to know maybe events, or that maybe there'll only be one or two surprise events, stuff like that. Okay, fine. I can and can't agree with some of that, but it's turned into this weird thing where they want to know everything. And in MMA, that's not the case. Everything's variable. They can change how long the fights last. They can change round times, all those different things. And it's like, that's sort of just on Dana and his structure of people. Mm-hmm. And I think we sort of are on more of that side, the MMA side of things, than we actually are football. CrossFit's weird. The unknown and unknowable thing can't be understated, because it's like, we don't know the events. We don't know the movements. I don't think that we should know all of the movements. If they want to put the snail or whatever out there, I want them to be able to do that. Should there be some oversight on safety? Yeah. I disagree with the group that Bill and Katie should have seen ACL, or not ACL, the pops of your Achilles. I think they should have seen those coming. And I think because...
You think they should have seen them coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because Josh and Chris are both older, they were just like, oh yeah, we went pretty fast on that, or we had people test it, they didn't do it. Like, if you were an elite athlete currently, you would have seen it coming from a mile away. And so, yeah, like that one should have been seen coming, but for the most part, like I want the surprise stuff to show up.
Yeah.
Because that makes it
Vindicate. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Absolutely. I absolutely do.
Okay.
Right. I see it.
Because that's the part of the sport that we love. I always say that chaos is probably one of my favorite events that they ever did because you didn't know what was going to happen next. And I think it was the athletes didn't know, we didn't know. And I felt like it was the moment where they actually were able to live up to the true unknown and unknowable and adapt on the fly. Yeah, the movements were simple. Fine, whatever. It wasn't this big, huge thing. But then people were upset about what Boz did for the medley, the jump roping and all that. I thought that was great. We're told that we want to show the athletes trying to just navigate something new. But then it was this conversation of like, well, we don't want them to look like that they're incapable, but these are the fittest athletes in the world. Can they adapt? So it's kind of like, and maybe that's what it's supposed to, are we not supposed to have a clear answer? Is it supposed to be like, take it for what it is and keep it moving?
I feel like most athletes and most people are okay with the fact that we have a general idea of how it's going to work. There's going to be anywhere between, 12 and 18 events. It's hardly ever towards the 18 side. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a couple surprises. There's going to be a new movement a year. That's a pretty good understanding. The general movements that are going to show up. You're going to have a couple weird movements. The athletes seem to have gotten too big for their britches. And I think that that's living off of the fact, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. Look at the followers that Rich and some of the OGs have. And like, they still outnumber the current athletes like 2 to 4 to 1. And it's like, okay, they had this idea of how big the system was, how big CrossFit was, and they wanted to professionalize it off that understanding that in 5 years, if this continues to grow at this level, it's going to be a super professional sport. We're not there now. We're below 2010 levels of interest in the sport, and they want to act like we're the NFL, and it's just like we're not there.
Mm. Yeah,
and that's what drives me crazy about the PFAA is they're cutting themselves off at the knee to service the professionality that they want to have. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine. D-Reed, the issue wasn't Rogue. The issue was PFAA members who demand safety didn't appear to care since Dave wasn't involved and they were participating.
That goes back
I think is,
that goes back to my question. And I've asked everybody that we've had on here that is a hardcore CrossFit lover. Do you feel like that athletes can be competitive athletes and members of the PFAA at the same time? Take the games, for instance. All of those PFAA members, and again, we don't know what conversations were had, so this is just, again, my own personal opinion, but when you are in competition mode, you hear from athletes all the time, I'm just there to compete. And whatever that looks like. Some people put themselves in a corner. They don't talk to anybody. They're just in their own focus. Some people have their team around them. They have their routine or whatever. Do you believe that someone that is blinders on, competitive athlete can be as effective as a PFAA member looking at things like safety and concerns and support and all of those things that they promise being members of the PFAA?
Yeah, that's fair.
Sorry. One of the good moves I think Brent has done, I hate that he retired. I was actually sad that he retired because he is an end of an era to a degree. He's one of the last remaining OGs to a degree. But it is good. So the president or the person who represents the PFAA, I actually don't think should be a current games athlete.
Okay.
But people on the board or their advisory or any of the crew that wants to be in the PFAA that's fine. Like, you should feed your opinions up to the top, but a person who is communicating them and vetting that should not be a current member or a current competitor.
I just thought that the that made the PFAA seem disingenuous.
Right? 100%. This is the politics part of it.
Even if it's not HQ run, it's still CrossFit. You still have athletes competing in CrossFit, and you should still care whether or not they get hurt or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just because they're at Rogue or they're at Dubai or you should still give a shit if the ropes aren't cut.
And it's not fair to a degree because Katie changed the workout halfway through the heats going. And so they did, like, whether it was PFAA or not, like the PFAA existing and the bad press that Bill and Katie would have gotten from not changing the workout still presented pressure to Bill and Katie, and they made a change. And so they have done good in that way. It is disingenuous that they just want to frame it all on Dave.
Yeah, that was my feeling on that statement.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, dude.
The bullet point.
Rogue was great. I didn't.
Yeah.
It honestly, and this might go not well either, but when Panchik fell and he hurt his leg on the rope because it wasn't cut or whatever, in my mind, I guess maybe I'm just an old school athlete and I'm like, oh, well, that's the way it goes. There's so many sports where you train all year and you step out for one play in a basketball game and rip everything. So
the conundrum with that. So I was actually, that was the first time I had ever gotten like press access or backstage access to anything.
Was Rogue?
Yeah.
Oh,
that Rogue. And I watched Scott go to Wilson and say, the ropes need to be cut. And so that's what the bitch of it was like, Scott was like, well, son of a bitch, if I didn't just tell you about this and my knee pops. But I think Scott would also say, like, I had the responsibility's on me once I go out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still chose to play. I could have not done the event or whatever, or I could have gone slower, and he didn't. Now, you have to watch out for the athletes because they will just push past the point of no return.
Yep.
But he assumes the risk once he walks out there, and he knew that. It was just like it was like, kind of maddening, and like, son of a bitch, here we are.
I told you someone was going to get hurt, and then here I was the one that got hurt. Yep.
Yeah, CK, I've come down off ropes before too and stepped on the rope and kind of felt my ankle roll a little bit. Nothing crazy, didn't even need an ice pack, but I knew, okay, hey, when I come down off the rope, you do that Y jump, you spread the legs and do the Y jump off the rope, and you just look ridiculous, but you do it anyway.
I've come down from a rope where there was no extra rope on the bottom and my foot kind of like to the side, like so.
Hey, listen.
I mean,
we you to have stronger. You need to. It's your fault for not having stronger ankles than these.
Apparently, that's what it is. That's what it is. Fucking knee. Fucking ankle.
Y jump. Yes, that one. What's up? Oh, Pedro. Hey, dude. Ooh, I like the new logo. If it was actually on Dave, he would have been fired. They fired him before, so not like they're afraid to do it. All they needed was a reason, and obviously couldn't find one. I mean,
do you blame that? Sorry, I don't mean for you to lose your thought, but do you?
Yeah, she does. It's
fine. No. Do you necessarily like blame them for not blaming him? You know what I mean? Like, are you surprised that they blamed him, or were you kind of expecting everybody to be mad at just Don?
I understand why athletes and community members win at Dave. He is the president, so to speak, of the games.
Mm-hmm.
And so going after him makes sense. I don't think it's appropriate, but I understand how you mentally get there. I would argue that CrossFit likely needed a fall guy for this thing. And the fact that we didn't see one is enlightening, because think about the actions of HQ for the past 2 or 3 years. They've mitigated every instance of bad press that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
And they've essentially watered down their vision and their mission because of it. But it seems to me like it would definitely be in step with everything that they've done to say, you guys are right. Here's the guy that needs the axe. And so everybody's like, oh, they didn't do the right thing. I think they have pressure like that. It would have been easier to fire Dave and him not getting fired says more than he got fired.
Yeah, I do too.
Wait, what do you mean? Say, like, what does it say? That they're not just going to take the easy route out, that it's actually better for them to keep him?
I would
no, but there's nothing to fire him for.
That's it.
Yeah.
That they did the investigation, and if I were Dave, I would have been shitting bricks, because I would have been like, I'm fired for sure. Especially if you had one pencil
conversation. Yep.
Yeah. They probably really wanted to appease that loud majority and fire Dave. And the fact that they couldn't fire him,
he's the easy sacrificial lamb on this. Why would you not do it? And it's because you can't. Yeah. And so him not being fired, like if I were anybody on the PFAA or anybody who's really concerned about this, you need to step back and think why, because he would have been so easy to fire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Kip, and I saw your comment up there. I don't think Don wanted to fire him, because then Don's taking a lot of strays, right? Like Dave is the one that they wanted.
He needs to punch him back.
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah, Don. Yeah, Don didn't want Dave gone. Then everybody is looking at Don right now. They're all looking at Dave because they have history with Dave. They may not like him for some reason. They have beef with him for whatever reason.
That's why I need helping around, because if he disappears, Sevon's going to start hitting me.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's why you need John around. Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited. I definitely thought that they would say more. I'm one of those idiots that thought that more would have been said by now, but also too, I understand why it's not.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested.
I apologize.
Oh, you got that Zin?
Yeah, I'm doing this Zin. It's no good. Don't start it.
No.
Mm-mm.
I know we talked about, we focused on CrossFit also.
Oh yeah.
You want to pivot to life stuff? I love your all's podcasts with Ellie. Like that's when it started sprinkling in my head. Like, number one, I love Ellie.
She's great.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's been one of the most we had a commonality in TTT, and then we met at Crash. And like we just gravitated as friends like immediately.
Yeah, you can't not like her.
We were so sad that she didn't come to Crash, because she was one of the first ones that we like confirmed that we were going. Yeah, and she was so excited. And then obviously, she got hurt, and then us finding out now that she's pregnant. We're so happy for her. But she was like, we all were super bummed that she wasn't going to be there. She's the sweetest, nicest, but also so confident. Like I think the thing that I love so much about her is that she has her feelings and she has her beliefs, and she's very much like,
she doesn't waver.
This is how I am, and this is my values, and this is my beliefs, and whatever. So I always love talking to her, because she's got those. She just has that confidence.
Well, I love it in that, like, you could pin her as like an Alabama Republican, like, so to speak. I don't think she is that, but you could easily like staple her as that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have you two who are just completely like background totally opposite. And it's an amazing back and forth of like opinions and life experiences. And I'm like, man, it's really fun to watch.
Because like you said, most of us are, at the end of the day, our beliefs and morals are probably pretty close to each other. It's not, it doesn't matter kind of if you have any sort of beliefs or morals, you're probably going to be a good person, and you just want to hang out with them. So where do you want to go, dude? You want to go men and women's bathrooms? You want to go where you want to go? I have some.
Pee where you need to pee, I guess. I've peed in women's bathrooms. It's fine.
Is it true women's bathrooms are clean? They're cleaner than men's bathrooms, right?
So at work right now, they're doing some renovations, and one of the women's bathrooms has turned into a men's bathroom because there's just not enough bathrooms. Like all the men's bathrooms got shut off for some reason. I have no idea why. But anyway, so yeah, we have to use a women's bathroom. And I'm like, yep, this has seen a lot less degradation in the past 10 years.
Yes.
We're rough on a bathroom. Oh no, we can go baby stuff. Wait, what are you guys interested in?
No, for me with the baby thing, I was curious because like when did it become
what?
Yeah, I know. When did it become super real for you? Because for me, it wasn't until that baby started moving. Before that, I was like, oh, okay, she's pregnant. That's cool. I don't even know what that means. And then it started moving. I was like, oh, I got to take care of something.
Yeah, I think
that would be when the doctor handed you the baby and was like, here, this is yours.
There's definitely like, the moment Jeanette told me, over the course of that week, I felt like my brain was like going from tadpole stage to frog stage. It was like, it totally changed. I mean, like what's it called whenever you start prepping like your house and stuff? The nesting phase.
Nesting.
Yep.
I immediately like went into total panic mode on the nesting stuff. Like we lived in a house and like I didn't think it was appropriate. Found a house like in 3 days for us to move to across town. Like there's a bunch of shit that I was putting off, like dealing with. I dealt with all of it.
Damn.
And so it's like I turned super internal. Sevon talked about this. Is like I need to fucking grow up. Like I got shit to do. And so like I did that one. But I think there is a part of it that's still not real all the way until they hand me the baby. I'm going to be like, I think I'm nervous about that moment because I'm like, oh yeah, like there's no going back now. Like not that there's any going back now, but you
got to be an adult now. You have to be an adult now. There's no.
Right.
Yeah. And I think also too, for you guys, watching us go through what we're going through, I almost think it gives you guys a little sense of safety. Like the baby's with us. Like the baby is safe. I'm healthy. Baby's healthy. Everybody's doing good. But then when the baby comes out into the world, it's like, oh shit. Now
he's breakable.
You also are responsible for the safety of the child. You know what I mean? So
Ortega.
Yeah. Jeanette says that a lot. She's like, I'm just ready for him to be here. And I'm enjoying what's happening in the little time that we have left, just as the two of us. And I'm infinitely, there's a main difference in us in that I am infinitely confident in the female body and the human body. So like, she's like, I just feel like something's wrong, or like she just worries. She's type A. That's what she does.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, we used to shit these things out in fields. Like we're going to be okay. Like your body can do this.
Dude, you said that to her?
I mean, like,
did you look her dead in her eyes?
I didn't say shit. But I was like, we used to have these things in fields. Everything's going to be okay. I think I've said that at least 100 times at this point.
You should probably text me before you.
She's like, do you still not know how sex works? We don't shit these things out.
Yo, he looked her dead in the eye and said, baby, go into a cornfield. You'll be fine.
We'll
get it done.
I do. It's being raised around animals and all that stuff like that. I just have a weird view on yeah.
Super comforting.
She can probably tell you the worst shit that I've ever said. I'm a bit, I think like I recognize with John because his brain says what mine thinks that's unfiltered. And so it's like when he pops off, I'm like, yes, but what John's trying to say is
like, I can speak John. I can translate for you. This is what he actually meant. Yeah. Yeah.
But with her, she gets the John side of me that's totally unfiltered.
So when you guys both found out, was she instantly worried? Was she instantly reading everything, taking notes, checking all the boxes as a type A-er? And were you like, cool? And then it's obviously the longer you guys have been pregnant, whatever, is it starting to kind of flip a little bit too?
Yeah. So I went down the prepper route, of course, and started like cleaning and getting our lives straight. And then, yeah, she went the academic route and started reading and doing everything. All that stuff. Yeah.
Makes us more nervous.
So she stopped because she was like, I'm going to die in 18 different ways. Yes. In every different week's a different way to die. Yep. And she's like, I have to stop reading this.
Yes.
Well, you'll find out, Tyler, that we flip. Like once the baby comes out, we become super neurotic and don't let the baby do anything. And they're like, he's going to be fine.
Well, I'm there now because I did have my own form of postpartum after. Mm-hmm. But my postpartum was separation. Like I could not be separated from him. There was just this fear of not having him around, to the point where like, I know Garrett didn't like that I went back to work, but it was kind of good for her to be like, go back to work. Like, you have to get out of this house. You have to stop being like, I didn't even like her to be alone with him, because I felt like something was going to happen to me if I was away, to him if I was away from him. Like, it was very much like this, like, neurotic
She didn't trust
feeling.
me. She thought I was going to kill the baby, but I didn't. He's fine. He's
and
still
go
alive.
ahead, you can tell people that I dropped him twice,
Yeah,
which I didn't drop him at all. Thank you very much.
He never fell out of anything with me.
He was always buckled in when he decided to throw him out of the swing when he was with me. So
hey, have you guys had the parental conversation about circumcision yet? That was a big one in our house.
We hadn't even had the breastfeeding conversation until like the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, we haven't talked about that. But the circumcision, Sevon's hell bent on circumcision. I don't know if you guys have gotten this one lately. He says it's basically in any political rant that he's getting ready to go on, and he starts saying blue hairs and all this stuff. Yeah. He's gonna say cutting dicks off and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, here we go. I don't know. I need to look into it. I do call Sevon from time to time, especially like vaccine stuff and different younger kid carrying stuff. I ask him because I know that he has like an alternative outlook in it. So It's like, okay, like, how do I need to proceed, or where are my boundaries in proceeding? Right. I don't know anything about the circumcision part. I'm circumcised, seems to work out fine, but I know that it could go poorly. That's about the extent of my knowledge. We had a good conversation. So this would be interesting. Colleen, I need to answer your question.
Yeah.
I was raised, my family's basically all men. The first female born in our family in 40 years was born a year ago. We just don't have women.
Oh,
I don't know why. Austin, my brother's little daughter, she's great, and she looks more like a Watkins than I think I look. But having a boy is comforting in that I know what to do with boys. I'm the oldest of three, and there was a part of my life where I essentially had to raise those two because of the things going on in our life. And so I am a bit nervous about him being an actual baby. Like, I wasn't around babies all that much, so I don't know how to deal with that. But him being a boy is comforting in that I'm like, just let him go. He'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Like, it'll be okay. But I am interested in to hear, we had on the drive back from Thanksgiving yesterday, we had a long conversation about raising him and like values and all this stuff. What were the conversations? Where were you in your relationship with like politics, being lesbians, all of that stuff, and then talking about values that you wanted to raise him on before he was born? What was that like?
Oh Lord, because we have none of the same.
What year was this?
17. He was born in 17.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, up until he started moving, we had no conversations because for me it wasn't real yet, and so we really didn't have any conversations. But then I think when I was like, oh, there's a baby in there, it's moving, you can see it come out of her stomach. Like, she's not very religious at all, but she knows that religion is important to me. Like, my faith is important to me,
which is wild. You having red hair tells me you were raised in the Catholic Church, and it's the opposite.
Yes, Lutheran.
That's
Lutheran.
Basically Catholic.
Yeah. No, I'm learning all of this. I mean, it was the, you go to church on Sundays, you go to Sunday school. My mother was a part of it. She volunteered a lot. She did a lot of stuff for Christmas time, holiday time, all the type of stuff and whatever. But I would say that we had a lot of conversations when we first got together.
Yeah.
We had a lot of very important conversations when we first got together about a lot of things. And
money.
How long had you been together before you had your son?
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So if we had my way, we would have gotten pregnant right away, but that didn't work. Garrett said no, and then it took.
I knew I wasn't ready. I knew. I was like, we need to be together for a while. We need to have some alone time first, and then
it took us 2 years to actually get pregnant. And I mean, you guys.
But I mean, some of the big conversations, she came in hot saying she wanted a big family of 5 kids, and I was like, whoa now. I was like, do you want to enjoy life?
Yeah.
Or do you how are we paying for these 5 children that we're having? Because
and she's meeting and seeing, because one of my brothers has 5 children.
That's crazy.
And him and his wife both work full-time jobs, and they pass in the day, they pass in the night, and you have the older ones taking care of the younger ones, because
evidently passing long enough to make more kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like
that quick 5-minute break.
That's all it took, right?
It's all it takes, bro.
That was that dedicated sperm that day. Like, they were going to make it no matter what. So she had said that to me. She's like, do you want that? Not like any judgment to them, but she's just like, they don't have time to be in a relationship. And so my parents separated when I was officially separated when I was like 13, but they never had a relationship. They lived in the same house, but they didn't have a relationship with each other.
Colin and I grew up in the same life. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of joke that the last time they liked me was when they conceived, or liked each other was when they conceived me.
Yes.
So, but growing up, like, they didn't have a relationship with each other. So that was what I was looking at as what a marriage looked like. And then following my brother, because he's 16 years older than me, was like, oh, that's the family that I want. I want big family, a lot of kids. You know what I mean? Like, I'll work, my partner will work, all this type of stuff will go on. And then when I met Garrett, I was like, oh, we really like to spend time together. We just like to spend time together. We like to hang out. And when you bring more kids into the situation, like, we're not going to be able to have that much time together. So I would say we started to have a lot of those conversations really early on in our relationship. And then we got married and all this type of stuff. But I think that the way that I approach and the way that we approach, I mean, we'll take religion, for instance. I never felt like I needed to change myself to believe what she believes. She never put me in a position where it was like, I can't love you if you don't believe what I believe. I can't be with you if your religion is not the same as mine. And then it was the same with hers. Like, I never felt like I needed to change her beliefs, nor take her beliefs away from her in order for her to love me.
Do you guys have different, like, do you guys have religion? Do you have the same beliefs? No, nothing.
Man, there's so many questions. Don't distract me. I'm
okay.
Okay. Oh,
no,
go
back.
Sorry,
No. I'll answer your question. I'll come back.
Yeah, come back.
It's like there's parts that I want to ask Colleen, and there's parts that I want to ask Garrett.
Of course.
No. Take over.
Like, you guys are infinitely
interesting
to me in that I'm not close to other lesbians, and you guys are so different, I think, as lesbians, that I'm like, I have to peek behind the curtain. Like, what's this like? But anyway, so I was raised Baptist. I went to church every Wednesday, every Sunday, particularly through like the youth group stage. And then so Jeanette went in and out of church. Like, she comes from a more Irish background. She was raised around Catholicism a little bit more than me, but she was in and out of church, but I think much less than myself. Her mom sort of has like a more spiritual side. It's a bit touched by like Nordic beliefs and different stuff like that.
Fun.
But it's fun. I think she likes stories. And so Jeanette, I think, is more spiritual than I am, but I liked the structure that church gave me for a long time. So growing up in the church, especially in Kentucky Baptist Church, it gives you a good structure on rules to live by. But I found it, we were talking about this on the way back home yesterday. I found it completely stifling in that, like, weed, for instance. I was like, that I could never do the mental equation on weed, because I was like, God made the weed, but for some reason we can't smoke the weed. Like, how does that? And I didn't even smoke weed. And I was like, I just don't understand why I can't touch it. And so I found it stifling in life experience. I was like, there's more to life than current day Christianity allows you to have, that I don't feel like is really off limits. We're just being told it's off limits. So when I got into college, I sort of I experimented in different sects of Christianity. So like Seventh-day Adventist, and then, or like I got into Buddhism for a long time. Like I would read up on all that. So I wanted to understand more about religion, but I sort of just left Christianity alone and I just watched it. Right. And I watched how people acted in it. The bad part of being raised in Kentucky Baptist culture is you see the worst of people, the worst type of people. And so it was from that angle out of college, I actually didn't like the church because it was like the grossest people are in churches. But being around unfiltered human experience was super important to who I became later. And so how that applies to the baby, like I want him to have the rules that church gave me just because it gives you bounds. And I feel like that's important for a kid growing up. So we've been talking about like, do we go back, start back to going church? Like whether we believe it or not, just being involved in that. I have an interesting view on religion in general, but Garrett.
Yes, sir.
So faith being important to you. I'm mind boggled by gays and lesbians because of the view of gays and lesbians in the church.
Yeah.
Me being raised Baptist, especially in the South, you guys were a no-no.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we still are.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not a big deal. Sorry.
So yeah, I guess tell me a little bit about your faith and then like what that was like as a lesbian.
As like growing up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in church a lot growing up. I mean, we didn't go twice a week. We went once a week. And we did all the, midnight mass, all that stuff. We were Methodists.
Yeah.
So, you know what? When I came out to my grandparents, they're very religious. My grandfather's since passed, but they were always involved with the church up until my grandfather's passing. And even now my grandmother's still in church. And when I came out, they never said anything about it. It was just like, yeah, okay. We kind of knew it's fine. And they're church people.
You don't say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like, no shit. You play softball. You're 6 feet tall. It's like, got it. Okay, great. I've never seen you with a dude ever. It's fine. That's what and they were so cool. And they sat down with me. They asked me kind of questions like you're asking me now. And so that was my experience with church going people. Mm-hmm. They didn't, anybody else who kind of knew that went to church never had a problem. I was friends with like strict Roman Catholics. I was friends with, I had a lot of Jewish friends. And it never seemed to me being gay, and it was never a conflict for anybody because of their religion at all. And nobody in my church ever treated me any type of way. Just maybe I did the whole don't ask, don't tell thing in church, but it's not like people didn't know. I would go to church in a suit and vest. It's not,
just
you know what I mean?
Don't ask.
Yeah, it's like, it was fine. No one treated me any differently. I wasn't not invited to things. I wasn't. So my view of people who go to church aren't bad. It just bad. Like people who want to be mean and nasty are just people who want to be mean and nasty. There might be some in church. There are going to be some that don't go to church. There are going to be some that I don't put that on any kind of religious texts or beliefs or whatever. John believes that I have to repent for my whole life and try not to sleep with my wife in order to go to heaven. But it's not work. Like we're still friends.
And you said fine. You try not sleeping with her. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah. Like it's sorry. Yeah, I'm giving in there.
Yeah.
The guy, like
so I never cared to impress on Jeanette anything, but my beliefs were sort of like loosely held. I think the structure was important, but it's on you to have your own relationship with the way that you see God. I never believed in like a build your own God thing, but I do believe that people's relationship with God is very different. And so I was like, never push that on her. Did you have the same sort of feeling towards Colleen?
No, I never pushed. If she asked me questions, I always answered how I felt. Like my relationship with God, I grew up without my dad. So I always thought of him as a father figure for me. It was just comforting for me. And so, but no, I never pushed any of that on her. If she asked me questions, she'd be like, hey, what are you watching? I'd be watching some documentary on something. And she'd be like, well, what's that? And I would answer it. And, you know, she's been asking more questions since we've been married, but whatever, she doesn't.
So going forth for the baby, as you guys like to refer to him.
Yeah.
7, almost 8.
I know. At 5 feet tall. Like, yeah.
How do you see, I'll say, church applying to his life? Are you guys wanting him to be in church? Like, how do you guys approach that conversation between the two of you?
Well, I really follow her lead when it comes to the religious part, not her faith and her relationship with God, but like I follow her lead when it comes to religion. And I always say, I don't want the fact that I don't follow a religion, believe in a religion, have a relationship with God or anything like that to take the beauty that I know, because I see it through my wife, from him. So I'm not trying to keep him from anything. I'm not trying to say like he can't learn about God and about faith and about religion. I really follow, her lead. We've had many conversations because she obviously has her feelings when it comes to the church, to organized religion that are different from her faith, that she's talking through and whatever about, are we going to go into the church? Do we want him to be in a church? What church would we want? What kind of support would we want? Or is it very much conversations, beautiful conversations that she gets to have with him to introduce him to God and faith and all this type of stuff, but just intimately with the three of us, to just be able to sit and almost like telling stories. You know what I mean? So I really follow her lead on this. And again, I'm very interested in my wife. I want to learn about my wife. So the beauty of that is I get to learn about faith and religion and a beautiful relationship that she has with her faith because I'm with her. So it is starting to change my perspective on having, I mean, I don't know if you want to.
It's kind of like her learning football with me. It took her 12 years. She's learning football.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Religion and football is the same.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I really kind of follow her lead on that. And what, she started teaching him the Lord's Prayer. We say grace at night sometimes now, you know what I mean? Like, and he asked questions like, about heaven and that kind of stuff. Like we're starting to have these type of conversations, but I really follow her lead on that.
You have to understand too, our son's autistic. He's on the spectrum. Yeah. So there's only so much like we can introduce to him at a time, but when he latches onto something that he really likes, he'll just dive into it. And so for me, I'm kind of hoping that as I introduce these little pieces of the Bible, these little Bible stories to him, and about morals and values and whatever, that he'll start to, and then he'll want to read, right? Because I grew up reading there was little Bible stories. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but every book was like 25 pages and it told a story of the Bible. And I had my grandmother bought me the stack of them, so I had all of them. So that was my start to it. So that stuff we're kind of starting to talk about.
But Tyler, you have to remember. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to catch up. But you have to remember too that I grew up seeing religion as a weapon. So a lot of times when I would hear things that people would say, especially when I came out, because I came out when I was in my my early 20s. So it was used as a weapon, because if you were gay, then religious people hated you, and they wished death on you, and pray away the gay. And my uncle was very
didn't work.
So I kind of had a falling out.
You didn't pray long enough.
No, exactly. Still don't. So I fell out of religion, I guess you could say, when I was younger, because I saw death for the first time. And I kind of unpacked this with, last time we talked to John, is like when I saw my first death and I watched my aunt die, and this idea of like, God is going to always save you, I kind of lost my faith with the fact that, well, he didn't save her. He's, she suffered and all this type of things. You know what I mean? So I lost that, but then I also had an uncle that was very aggressive on the way that like you had to follow this, you had to do this, you had to do this, and he used it as a weapon. Like, you're not a good person if you don't believe this. You know what I mean? You're gonna go to hell if you don't believe this. All these type of things. Yep. So I've always seen religion as a weapon. So again, being with Garrett, she's starting to chip away at my views of religion as a weapon. So that's why for us, it's such a different experience, because she never experienced religion as a weapon, whereas I did.
Yeah, that is interesting that the Garrett, that people were just like, yeah, whatever, like you can be gay, it's fine. And that with Colleen, like your experience, I did. Let's see you, Garrett.
I'm here. I'm still here. Hold on. Go ahead, keep going.
She went to go pray. She'll be back.
Shut up.
I did see a lot of that, the weaponization of Christianity. And I have a way of viewing things. I was never, like, I didn't have to go through any experience where it got weaponized on me, but I would watch it and be like, oh man, that would suck to have thrown at you. But ultimately, I like where Garrett's coming from. The stories, everything in life to me is a story. And stories, I think, are probably the most important thing that we have. And it's like how you can really internalize different aspects of life. And so that's why I read like Hindu texts, and that's why I ventured into different sects of Christianity, is because the stories would be told differently and how you internalize them would be different. And that's ultimately what I want to get from, or my kid to get from it, is that like, hey dude, these are just stories that you can use when shit gets hard. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that you guys are able to do that back and forth.
Well, I think when you come from a place of that and saying that they are stories that you can lean into when things are tough and they're difficult, because this world is difficult and it's sad and it's tough out here. You know what I mean? And when you can lean into those, Brock said it. So we were on John and Brock's podcast or whatever, and Brock kind of said it in a way that is very interesting for me to kind of lean into. It's like having a relationship, and I think Garrett kind of mentioned it too, not a father figure, but kind of having like a teammate. You know what I mean? Like having somebody that you can lean into and have that friendship with, that is there for you if you need them, kind of thing. I can lean into something like that versus the other way, which is, and this is what I have a hard time understanding, especially talking with John, is that it seems like if you follow the word completely to the T as to how he lives his life, it's almost like you're being told every single day that you're a really shitty fucking person. Every single day you're told that, and this is what I experienced also with my uncle, is that if you don't follow things exactly how it is, that you're a really shitty person, you don't deserve anything. You know what I mean? And like the list goes on and on. So I think that coming from a place of storytelling, I think is especially for kids. You know what I mean? Like you were just saying, like, especially for kids to be able to kind of introduce.
I think that's why they went that route. Like the book that Garrett read as a kid, like every story was 25 pages. It's easier to absorb.
Yeah.
It's funny that because I used to feel that way too. Like every day I was just like, oh, I'm a piece of shit in this and this way. And that freaking blows. I mean, ultimately you have to learn that we're all pieces of shit and we're just going to be pieces of shit till the day we die.
Yep.
But that was sort of the part that I walked away from. Ultimately, my spirituality came down to this. I was always bothered by the worst human atrocities that have ever been committed are usually done with religious backing.
Yeah, sure.
It's all about how you get to heaven. And everybody wants to bitch and squabble about how you get to heaven. And so I started thinking about that. And I was like, man, maybe that's a ruse. Maybe that like is not the part that we were supposed to focus on. And I started thinking about the first part of the Bible where God created the earth and the heavens in 7 days, or in 6 days, and rested on the seventh. And I was like, and that God, and we are made in God's image, right? And so I started thinking about that, and I was like, ultimately, what I want for Braun is I want him to be an equal in every way, if not better than me. Yeah. I was like, it would be hard. Like, you start to anthropomorphize God to a degree, which is always dangerous, but it would be hard that like God was just floating around doing his own thing and being totally like alone. And if you created children, what he would want from them, if we are created in his image, has to be similar to the way that we feel, right? We want them to be the most amazing versions of themselves that they can be. And so I was like, oh, that's where we missed it. God created us to rival him in creation. We'll never meet that task, but we serve such a small time of life on here. And it's like, to me, we have the responsibility to make everything better and more creative in every way that we can, because that's what he wanted us to do. And so I don't get into all the different bullshit of like, oh, you sinned in this way, you sin. We all sin. It doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you making your time worth it? Are you a creative person, or are you just a follower of recent bullshit? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what so that's my relationship with God, is that like, honor him is probably not the right word, but I need to fulfill my responsibility to make the most of the time that I got given.
I think so.
Create as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that part about that you said that's kind of cool is that he must have made us to try to be better than he was, and do better. But then just the fact that we can't, like, there's no possible way that we can.
Yeah.
But you hope that for your own children, who can do better than you. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to think on that. That's another one. There's been a couple people that have messed me up with this. Bernie Gannon too messed me up with something the other day. I was like, "Ooh, I got to think about this."
I don't want to hold you guys.
No,
you're fine. You're fine.
I have one.
I'm checking on our kid. He's fine. No, ask
topic I wanted to ask. Yeah. So I'm gonna poke at lesbians again.
Go ahead. That's what we're here for.
We got into a conversation.
We don't normally
yesterday.
Get poked, so this is new for us. But fire away.
So in our drive back for Thanksgiving yesterday, we were talking about morals and how we wanted to raise Braun, and if because her and I see things differently. I come from a more conservative background, even though most of my family votes for Democrats. They were sort of New Deal Democrats in like the union sense.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I was raised in Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. Like, most of that is Republican in value, right? And so we were talking about those and how we broach different subjects and values that we want him to have. And essentially, like, we landed on, like, we just want him to be a gentleman in every sense, especially in the way that he treats women. And so what I was thinking about with you all was, being lesbians, I was thinking a lot about my duty as a father. So Jeanette will be the main breadwinner here soon. She's going to be a PhD and a faculty at some university, right?
Oh, that is so much work.
Amazing.
God bless
her.
Amazing.
Her earning potential goes catastrophically higher than mine immediately, right? And I don't ever doubt my ability to work and produce, but we will need a main caregiver to a degree. And so I started looking at like JR, because like he services as the main caregiver of his children most of the time. He's around more. He's able to do it more. So in respect to like values and like sort of normal gender roles of like male, female, and all this stuff, what were those talks like for you guys? Like, I know that Garrett leans more masculine.
I didn't lean more. I fell over that line. That's not leaning at all. No, it just kind of it ended up just kind of being that way. I think I heard Seven on his show today say something or answer a question. Do you think that
I heard that one too?
a more masculine or a more feminine role to have it work? I don't know if I know the answer to that question, but for us, it definitely does. And yeah, I do take the garbage out and, you know, all that stuff, but there wasn't really a conversation. I just kind of, I like to do that stuff. I like to take care of the finances. I like to be at work. You know, I love spending time with my kid, of course, and I want to spend as much time with him as I can. But my job kind of takes precedence over everything else because it is what provides for us. So, and she's always wanted to be a mom. That's always, there really didn't need to be a conversation. I think we just kind of fell into those roles and it was like, okay, whatever makes the house run the best, I guess, whatever makes the relationship run the best so that we can be the best wives to each other kind of thing.
Yeah. There is a different constraint in that he is autistic. But like, I mean, for instance, I want to teach Braun that like, there are things that are normal. Guys act like guys, girls act like girls. And those, most people fall in those lines. Now, we don't treat people who don't fall in those lines like shit. Most of the time, those were my best friends in school because they were weird and I wanted to hear from what they had to say. But like, most of the time people fall in these two camps. And that from me, he learns what it is to be a man.
Yes.
And from her, he learns how women act and how you should treat women. With you two, in communicating with him, how does that work?
Oh no, I taught him all dude stuff. I'm the one who taught him how to pee standing up.
Yes,
and
you did.
I don't even know how to pee.
How hard was that?
You did,
dude. I don't know how you guys learn it but I started teaching him.
It was the hands on the back of the toilet, lean forward, and just aim down. Yep. She taught him it like that. It was amazing. She's like, I was out somewhere. She texted me. She's like, I just taught our kid to pee standing up. Great. No problem.
I'm a freaking killer. Look at me.
Awesome.
I don't even have a penis. I know how to do this.
I have all the same thing. Like I don't want my kid to be the kid at school that sits down and pees. Like there was a whole long time where I was like, he would pull his pants all the way down to his ankles to pee. And I'm like, no, boy, you can't be that.
I still do that.
He still drops them down to the
anytime. I don't do it in public, but I do it at home every single time. Or if I'm in a stall by myself, I'm doing it every single time. It's so weird that I do it, but it's so much more freeing. But I'll forget where I am sometimes and start to do it. And I'm like, whoa. You can't bare ass it right here. In the men's restroom.
Right here.
Yeah, but see, CK, I'm a lesbian. I didn't know that you can still pee sitting down and be a man. I didn't know that. So my first thing was like, I got to teach this boy how to pee standing up. So
the greatest thing is realizing that as a man, you can pee and sit down.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta.
Well, then I'll let him reach out to y'all when it comes time for all those things. Be like, hey, jump on the pod, ask your uncle this.
Yep. Well, that was one of the questions that the first time that we met Chase was one of the questions that I ended up bringing up, because we hear that a lot, is that two women can't raise a boy because we're not men. We don't know how to. We're not men, so we can't raise a man.
Like,
you know
I don't know what to tell you to do with your penis.
That was one of the first questions that
we don't know either.
Was I asked Chase, like, what his advice would be as a father, like as two women, like what's the most important thing, for us to do for our son. And it is just surrounding him with really cool guys. And we do.
That's what we do.
And we surround him with really, really cool guys. And, that seems to be, I mean, obviously he's still young, so there's not too many. I think it's going to be more when he goes through puberty and that kind of stuff. And, sadly in the world that we're living in right now, we have to be very careful with who we entrust around puberty with everything that's going on. So,
but no, if what you're asking is, yes, I do teach him how to open doors for women and let, open, if you see a lady going into a store, open the door for her, let her go. Like it.
Please, thank you. Eye contact.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Greeting, whether it's not necessarily like, so one of the things that Garrett has a really big challenge with is personal space. So like, if he doesn't know you, he's still running up towards you and like in your space. So one of the things that, it's pretty terrifying actually, because like,
it's okay. Sevon does that.
So teaching him how to appropriately say hello to somebody. So we're not necessarily like handshaking yet, but it's like a wave or pounding the knuckles or something like that, just to teach him that there's respectful ways to say hello without being so close to somebody, because he does. Like, I mean, there was one time at the gym where
teach him the old.
Yeah.
Like not
no, we're teaching him to be a boy.
Yeah.
We want him to be a boy.
Yeah. Well, and he loves all that. Yeah. Good.
You know, it presents a different issue that I don't have to solve, because it's a man and his wife being lesbians. It's like, I don't think it's impossible by any means, but it's like, I wondered if there was a conversation where you were like, shit, like we're having a boy and like, we're going to have to figure out how to teach him to be a boy despite us being women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I mean, I don't think it's impossible at all. It's like, we see a lot of dudes who are raised by dudes who are just as bitchy as anybody. And it's like,
if not worse,
you know,
if not worse,
men haven't been doing the best job of teaching men how to be men here lately. And it's like, I don't want to commit that sin either.
Hey, Tyler, let's play this game and see if if you and I have the same amount of points. This will be fun. Ready?
Oh boy.
You wanted the lesbian experience. Here you go. Let's see if we get the same amount.
Oh yes, this is so good.
So you and I both we both have to answer. Let's see if we both answer the same way the entire time.
Make sure the volume's on.
Yeah, I got it.
This is so good.
All right, ready?
Hey babe.
Yeah.
You're so masked that if you go to a softball game, everyone assumes you're the coach.
Yes. Everybody assumes I'm the coach if I go to a softball game.
Yeah. I would assume she had something to do with the ball team at least. Maybe not the coach, but she's there.
No, but I mean, for me, I'm answering as a masked lesbian right now. These are
the
stereotypes. So yeah, for me, if I go to a softball game, everybody thinks
you're
I'm
the coach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're so masked that if you're at Home Depot, nobody asks if you need help.
That's because I don't.
That's true. They do ask me. They don't ask me. But normally, in my defense, I do need help. I'm not.
I was going to say, do you need help?
Yes, she does.
You just need to pull the old Ron Swanson.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah. You're so masked that all the bras you have are sport.
All of them?
Fair. Every single one.
I think my wife owns like 2 normal bras, though.
They're so annoying.
If you're in CrossFit, I think it just like sports bras
all the way.
mandatory.
Yep.
All right, so we'll take that away. We'll leave that one out.
Yeah.
Get it? Feel comfortable.
Yeah. You're so masked that the waiter always puts the bill in front of you.
Does
Not
that
once,
happen?
all the time?
Yes.
No one has ever put a bill in front of my wife ever the entire time we've been together.
No, but she
Jeanette
also
gets so stoked when it happens, though.
Yes, she also doesn't like
I
it.
wouldn't
though.
let her pay.
There's
anyway.
a couple times that I have just taken the bill and
I hate it. I hate it.
Like paid for it. She's like, "We'll talk about this when we get home." And I'm like,
all of my testosterone drains out in that moment when that happens.
Hey babe.
Yeah.
You're so masked that when you came out, everybody's response was, "We already know that."
Yes.
Colleen, did you?
Go ahead.
This was one of the questions that I had. You wanting to have 5 kids. It tends to be a bit easier when you have a male involved.
mm-hmm.
When
ahead,
did
Tyler,
you realize?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to get to it. How old were you when you realized you were gay, or did you just always know?
No, I did not always know. So I came out much later. I was in my 20s when I came out, and I've only had one girlfriend before Garrett. So it was later.
So
Please don't ask me that question.
No, I heard you're the 5-star. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So was there a point where you were like kind of thinking you might be gay and think like, I can't, if I want 5 kids, or was that even in consideration? Like, if I want 5 kids, I can't be gay. Garrett's loving this.
Well, I think yes, because I struggled a lot when I was coming out. it was like when I realized that I was gay and I realized that I really liked my ex-girlfriend and wanted to be with her and really started to have very different feelings than when I dated men. Like I struggled back and forth with that for a very long time. And so with my past relationship, I kind of didn't have the time to sit and think about kids because I was kind of figuring out my feelings about the fact that I was gay. Being with Garrett and getting married and knowing that we were going to have a future together, I wanted a lot of kids. And I knew that obviously we would have to pay for our kids because that was something that I was very adamant about, was that we didn't know anybody. We didn't know it wasn't like someone close that we knew. And obviously I wasn't sleeping with men. So we were going to have to pay for it. I think the shock for me was how difficult it actually was for me to get pregnant. I was naive in the fact that the first time that we went through IUI,
she thought she was
that I was going to get pregnant. So it was going to be very easy for me to get pregnant. So I just figured, well, we'll get pregnant, we'll have our first baby, and then we'll wait however long we feel like we need to wait, and then we'll just do it again, and we'll do it again. And so we knew like it was expensive, but we were really like thrown into reality of how expensive it was because I had such a hard time getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Sure. I wanted you to say yes, that you were like, no, I can't be gay. I have to have
no,
but
dude,
it is.
It wasn't because of the kids situation. It was because of my family. It was because of, I used to be a dance teacher. So I grew up in the competitive dance world. And when I realized that I was gay, I was fearful that I was going to lose my job and never be able to teach dance to kids again, because I'm a woman watching kids dance. Now, all of a sudden they're going to think that I'm sexualizing their children. So those were more of those type of conversations with my ex, because it wasn't like we were married. We were gonna, like, I thought we were, like, I wanted to get married, but her and I were in such different places, and we were young, and I was very young with a woman. I was very immature in that relationship because it was my first relationship with a woman. So there really wasn't those type of questions when it came to kids. So then when I got with Garrett and we got married and we were setting our future, I was like, I had those feelings of when I was younger and always wanted kids. So I was like, oh, great. Now I'm married. Now I can have this huge family because I have found somebody that I'm married to, love, want to have a future with. So I didn't really ever have those type of conversations when I was coming out, because that wasn't where I was like mentally and mature enough to have those.
That's good in a way, though, that you're like, that it never presented an issue in your head mentally, that you're just like, no, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Because dealing with
can order it by mail, dude. It comes FedEx in the mail. It's not like you got to go do all this.
The box is huge, and cryo.
You just scroll. It's like Tinder. You just swipe right and pick the one you want, and there you go.
Do you know what the metrics were for like when you go through that? Because I know you can do this if you want like IVF and stuff like that, or and it's like you can pick the attributes that you want this person to have. It's like, you know, they have brown hair and they're 6'7" and blah blah blah. Do you remember the metrics?
My characteristics.
Her physical characteristics.
So he was older. He was 6'1", I think. I'm 6 feet. He had the same hair as me, eye color, medium complexion. So my baby can tan. Thanks.
Yes.
And yeah.
But it was amazing because when he was a baby, when he started to get hair, because he was a bald baby, which I was a bald baby. When he started to get hair, he looked just like her.
Really?
So people thought that we took her egg and I just carried it. They were like,
have you seen how to do that? Egg is insane, dude. I'm so glad you were able to get pregnant the old fashioned way, because these poor women that have to go get their eggs taken out and put, no, I wasn't doing that.
I wanted her to so badly. I did. And we had a friend that explained the procedure.
Nope.
And with every step, Garrett's face got whiter and whiter and whiter. She's like, no.
There have not been.
Sorry.
There have not been very many things in my vagina, and that it was not gonna start there. There's no way. Nope.
Instead of going 0 to 100, you go straight to 1,000.
Dude,
You're
that
like,
was
yeah,
1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the utensils that they have are bigger than any man that I've ever heard talk about himself.
The
and I was
wand
like,
is torture enough.
Nope.
It is hilarious because it's like, when you look at the tools or like tampons, even the whole joke about like guys definitely invented this. It's like, yeah.
Of course. Yep.
Oh,
we don't get it.
Ugh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What up? Dude, that was fun.
What else?
Thanks.
Yeah.
If you got anything else, go for it. We're good.
Yeah.
We still have several eggs. I've been frozen for 19 years. Don't know what to do with them. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to DM you. I got a question about that.
I was going to say on the selecting male attributes, I think I'm going to fall short. I'm no sales on my end are going to be had. 5'8".
Nope. Women need, you got them blue eyes. No, you should you should see some of the dudes they have in there. It's not like you're not
really
genetic lottery in every like.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting double PhDs that are 6'7"
Can't just go in there and get
pro ball players.
No.
Nope.
Nah.
God,
most of these guys are like painters or theologians or something. Like
somebody who needs money for their sperm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, weird.
Yep.
Starving artists.
I thought about it in college when I got real broke. I was like, I could do it. And then I was like, you have to go through like a whole line of bullshit just to get to the end, which is probably a good thing because you don't just need anybody donating at any time they feel like it, or else you would have like an overwhelming quantity that you'd have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not an easy thing to donate as in if we're not paid. Man, I feel it's interesting because I feel like I'm lesbian questioned out. I've not known you guys that well.
That's cool,
and
dude.
So, no, it's just great that like there's so much of your all's experience that is useful. That we can't.
And what Spin doesn't want you to interview me on the Spin cast? I would not go with.
We've tried to stay CrossFit appropriate. We've not done the best job. No, it's just cool. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've been reaffirming within myself having this kid. And I mean, I wanted to say this earlier. So the breaking point, Garrett, you're talking about like needing to be financially safe and like you guys be good in order to have 5 kids and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We didn't get married for the first 7 years, essentially.
Okay.
And then, like, the whole time, it was me dragging my feet because it's like I was just thinking about finances. And the same thing with having kids. And then when Lazar died, something broke in my brain. So, and it had nothing really to do with Lazar. But when Lazar drowned, I think my brain had been like setting itself up to break. And then him dying like was the last straw, and it just broke everything. But I remember I came home and I told Jeanette, I was like, I've been apprehensive about every step in my life. I only went to college because the college that was like 30 minutes down the street wanted me to play football there. And I was like, oh shit, I wanted to go to school. I just hadn't thought about it. And so I had applied nowhere. It was like April. And they were like, do you want to play football here? And I was like, yep, because I haven't applied anywhere else. And then like when I went to get my engineering degree, apprehensive. When I quit school, apprehensive. When I went back to school, it was double apprehensive. Being an accountant, I've been apprehensive the whole time. And then so when Lazar died, I realized like life hasn't gone so bad. And I've been apprehensive in every stage that I've taken up. And I was like, what if I fucking leaned into it? Like, instead of being apprehensive, like I started like trying to like actually be stoked about going into the next step and being aggressive about all the things that I'm involved in. And so I was thinking about having kids, and I was like, I don't want to be apprehensive about that. Like, I want to be stoked to have it happen. Are we ready? No, to a degree.
No
like,
one ever
but you're
is.
never ready.
Nope.
And so I was like, we'll fucking figure it out. Like, My grandfather had 4 kids. They lived in the mountains. He was a coal miner. Like, they didn't have a lot of money, and they still had 4 kids. And I was like, if they can make it work, like her having 2 PhDs and me having a degree and having a job, like, it'll be okay. And so it was like that. And then she was already pregnant. We didn't know, but she was already pregnant. And it was like, it was fucking weird.
That's how it goes.
Like 2 weeks from then, she showed me the pregnancy test, and I was like, oh,
let's go.
I got ready.
Yeah.
I'll have to own up to it now.
Oh yeah, 2-3 weeks.
Where's mama?
Yeah.
And when we were having those conversations, I was, oh yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, she didn't know.
That's so cool, dude. We got to have you back on after the baby. I want to hear about that first month. It's always that fun first month.
I've been thinking about it because John's having a baby. I'm having a baby. Sevon uses alternative methods in his kids. And I'm like, man, like, we have a good base to have like a dad show. I just don't, you just can't.
You should. Yeah, you should. Absolutely.
Joke. Yeah. But it's that, like, there's so much of this now. You know, I was talking with Jeanette yesterday. I was like, the way I think I'm building it in my head is there's two operating modes for men. There's peacetime men, and then there's wartime men, right? And those 2 types of men are very different. And I think we've needed peacetime men. And so men being like really physical, and most of our jobs being historically more so than now, they've been very physically based and require brawn, right? And we're not in that world anymore. Yeah. And so we're asking men to like calm down and be women, but we can't parent like women, right?
Nah.
And so I'm like, we've not been taught. I'm trying to build my idea around being the main caregiver of a kid, how men should parent as men as a main caregiver. And Sevon's doing that.
I would think the same way you would if you weren't the main caregiver. No?
No.
Nuance to it?
Because if the female's the main caregiver, right, they're doing all these things that men just can't do, right? And I guess like what you're saying to a degree is correct. Like, you're going to teach them the same values and how to operate in the world all the same. But I think there's a slight difference when you're there all the time. You can't be a mom. You're never going to feel those shoes the same way that she is.
Well, I mean, is your wife working 14-hour days?
She will be.
Oh, shit.
She already sort of does now.
Oh, that's a great conversation to have. I mean, it's not like she's gone though. Like, she'll be a parent here. That's not in the household. So,
but do you feel like, because what I'm hearing is it more of an expectation, feeling like that you have to fill the mother's shoes, so you have to parent like the mother would parent?
Yeah, I don't think
because I mean, even for Garrett and I, we're both women. We're both moms. We don't parent the same way. We both bring different things into his life as his parents. So I almost wonder if now the narrative is allowing fathers to step into the caregiver role without the expectation that you have to meet the same criteria as the mother would. Because
I think that's been the expectation, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
no,
course.
I don't think that.
Because culture for a long time was that the women and the mothers stayed home. The fathers went and provided and worked and did all this type of stuff. But now families are different. Your wife has a job that just is what it is. She's got a very good job. You know what I mean? So you're going to take it on that role. Sevon's, with his kids all the time, that kind of stuff. So I think that the narrative can change without the expectation staying the same. Like, you are going to parent your child and be a full-time caregiver to the child as his father. You're not trying to be his mother.
Don't overthink
Jody, what
it.
you have to understand, I'm going to overthink
everything.
Tyler
Watkins. Yes.
Tyler Watkins.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I would just say you're having a boy, so you can't really fuck that up. Like, it's a boy. He's just gonna be a rough and tough boy. You can't. No, you can't. You're fine. You got.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You have the cheat codes.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I know it'll be fine. But it's just it is a question that I've been thinking about a lot. Not, not even that it needs to be answered or it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thought about how I think for the past few decades, men who have taken over as main caregivers have essentially tried to fill the female's role, and that's never going to work.
It's never going to work.
And so, but there's no resources out there.
Yeah, that's true.
For men who are men to be the main caregiver. It seems like an oxymoron, so to speak. Because men who are men wouldn't be the main caregiver.
For men who are men. I love that. Let's go.
But I think it goes back to, the conversation that we brought up. Like, is she reading everything? Is she getting all of this information or whatever? I think just because there might not be resources, it doesn't mean that there's not people that are experiencing and walking a very similar line that you could have. You have your people. Like Sevon does it all the time.
Right.
He's like your greatest resource that you can have of like, hey, we're going to do things a little differently.
The greatest resource.
You can clip that. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. To be able, but also I think too, and this is something that I absolutely learned from Garrett or whatever, is that it's the phrase, everything will be okay. You're going to figure it out no matter what. So for us, I read everything that first year.
It still doesn't prepare you.
I read everything, and things that were in that book I wasn't going to be able to apply them to our kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wasn't, and it wasn't something that was going to work in our home and the way that we move in this world either. So we can obsess about reading information. We can obsess about doing things that society or psychologists or this one or that one says is the correct way to do it. Like, but you're gonna. Yeah,
but when you fuck them up, they're broken hardcore.
Oh, I would agree with that. Is there a bounce?
It's hard
back
to unfuck up a dude.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be cool, dude.
Yeah.
It's I think that's my thought along the lines of the podcast. Like, running a podcast is like for dads. The dad show.
You should absolutely.
Is like, it is a different lifestyle, and it's not highlighted on very much. And it is cool and it's weird, and it's just it's a different, unique experience. I think that I've been pondering. I ask questions that don't need to be answered. It is my number one detriment as a human.
That's fine. We all need some rhetorical questions out there. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it gets you to think, though.
And especially if John's going to be on this, because he's the one having a girl, right?
Shit.
So 7 3 boys, you have a boy, and then he's got a girl. It's going to be an amazing podcast.
So that little girl is going to flip John Young's world upside down. And I am ready for it.
That everybody says that, though, but John is, I don't know if resilience the right word, but
lands on his feet, does he?
Yeah. Because I just, right, good luck to him. So
thanks for hanging out with us. I gotta go watch football with my kid.
No,
not at all.
Not at all. Anytime.
I'm sorry, my camera battery died. It's like, I should have known that was gonna happen.
Anytime that you want to come on and talk and ask more lesbian questions, you can always ask them.
You're more than welcome.
You can always ask them.
You can take correspondence.
Yeah. Coming to you live from Lesboland. Let's go.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, Mike, real quick before we go, I didn't say that we don't do it. I just said that I wasn't.
No,
like I'm not fit enough to do it. Scissoring, you have to be fit to be able to do, and I'm not fit enough to do that. That's all I said. I'm sure there are lesbians that do it, but I'm just not fit enough to do it.
Tyler has so many questions. You just need them.
Okay, we're good.
Vindicate, no. Sevon is still.
Yeah, Sevon.
Like, it was like 2.5 hours or 2:45 or something.
I think you might have beat Chase. You might have
good. That's all I care about.
No,
but
I don't know. He might be tied with Souza.
Yeah, you're up there.
You might be tied with Souza. So
good.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.